The Griffin pet has been in the game for a couple of months now, originally sold at common rarity by Mayor Diana when elected. This pet is arguably one of the best early on, as it's only 25,000 coins to buy, but provides a range of useful stats and perks. The legendary variant provides even stronger stats in comparison to the common, but doesn't compete well with other pets at a similar price point. Before we get to testing, if you have any further questions, comments, or suggestions about this video, feel free to pop into my Twitch streams. I stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The links are down in the description below. With that being said, let's get right into the video. Okay, so as you can see, today's video is going to be focusing on the Griffin pet. We're going to be focusing on the legendary Griffin pet that I do have here in my inventory. I did manage to get one that is level 100 for this video, which I am borrowing from one of my friends' friends. So big thanks to them for letting me borrow this pet for this video. But before we get into all the nitty-gritty details, we'll go over the basic stat review just to show you guys why this pet would be even comparable as a great damaging pet, and also for a couple other things which I will get into later on in the video. But to get things started here, as you can see, the basic stats, we have plus 10 intelligence, plus 25 strength, plus 10% crit chance, plus 50% crit damage, and then plus 10 magic find. Now that bonus attack speed is actually from the Crochet Tiger plushie. As you can see, it says that it increases the attack speed by 35. Now this is usually what most people do on their Griffin pets, because when you use the Sword of Revelations, it doesn't give you any bonus attack speed like a weapon such as this Liver Dagger that I have here. So having that extra 35% bonus attack speed is very, very nice when fighting all the Griffin mobs, and that's the main reason why it's on this pet. So damage wise, the pet item is not going to affect this at all, and with the other pets that I will be showcasing the damage of in this video, I do not have any damaging affecting pet items either on those as well. But moving on to the next perks here, you can see that the first one is called Odyssey. This is just a perk that says when the Griffin event is active, you're able to dig up all the burrows and actually get all the treasure and loot. So this perk, as you'd expect, isn't going to be very effective for this video. We're going to be testing things like damage and other cool features about the pet to see if it's worth maining or if it's worth getting your hands on one to use outside of the Griffin event. So moving on to the next perk that we have here, it's called Legendary Constitution, and it gives you a permanent regen 7 and strength 8. Now I would say this perk is useful in some situations. I will get into all of that later on in the video, but for the most part, outside of dungeons and just in the main hub island or anywhere you would be farming, everyone normally uses God Pots anyways. As you can see, I'm jumping really high right now. That's because I have one active and I'm going to be using one for the entirety of this video. So this perk I will talk about a little bit later on in the video, but now you guys know that it's there. Next up here, we've got Perpetual Empathy. It heals nearby players for 20% of the final damage that you've received. So this one's kind of useful, kind of not. For these damage tests, it will not be useful at all, as I'm not going to be healing any players around me. I'm focusing on how much damage that I can do to the mobs that I fight, and all the other things such as the magic find and the other perks that it comes with. So once again, I do see a use for this perk, which I will talk about later on in the video. But for the main hefty damage test, it's not going to do anything. And now for the last perk, down the very bottom here, we've got King of Kings. You gain 15% strength when you're above 85% health. Now this is the perk that I definitely see use in most situations. Having 15% more strength when you're just sort of farming, doing your thing, and you're above 85% health, that's going to be very, very useful. I see it more useful fighting Slayer bosses and doing that sort of stuff, because for dungeons, you're normally going to be taking a lot of damage, and I'll talk about other things that are dungeon related later on in the video. But if you're going to be like an outside of dungeon skyblock player, then this perk might just suit you very well, and we'll see how it compares against other pets when we do the damage test right now. So to get things started here, I'll just go over all the armor, weapons, and talismans that I'll be using in today's video, just in case you guys are curious on how I can deal the damage that I've dealt. So to start things off, I'll quickly just show you guys the Liver Dagger that we're working with. This is a Liver Dagger. I've just renamed the name, so you can pause the video, have a look at the enchants or whatever you want to look at there. As for the armor, we have full superior dragon armor here with the Fierce Reforged. Nothing crazy. I haven't put ancient on it. I haven't put renowned on it. Nothing too special to see here. As for my talismans, I believe all of my legendaries are forceful, and then I have 2 epics that are also forceful, and then everything else is just shaded here. And then my combat skill is level 40, and then my foraging skill is level 31. So now that we have all that out of the way, how we move over to the damage test right now on some basic crypt ghouls. I will not be doing any backstab hits, as that's going to alter the damage a lot. So just a front facing hit here, 158,000 damage, about 158,000 damage there, 159,000 damage there, about 159,000 once again. So as you can see, the damage here is fairly substantial, around 158 to 160,000 damage per hit. depending on how the talismans work as well. I believe the gravitational talisman does alter your strength just a little bit. But we've showed you guys the damage of the Griffin pet, as you can see, about 158,000. I'm going to move over to the Wither Skeleton pet now. This is a very solid damaging pet that I have showcased in a couple of other videos beforehand. But just to get a side-by-side comparison of how the Griffin and the Wither Skeleton fare up, we'll get a damage test on these criticals as well. So doing about 127,000, 127,000, 127,000 once again, and then 127,000 damage for the last hit there. So it's definitely clear that the Griffin pet completely out-damages the Wither Skeleton here, just for the first strike, single damage hit on any mob. Now, it's not very surprising, as if we look at the stats of the Wither Skeleton here, we get 25 strength and 25% crit damage, which is the main damage-dealing parts of this pet. While with the Griffin pet here, we get the same 25 strength, but we get plus 50% crit damage, which is already 25% more crit damage with the Griffin pet. And then on top of that, the King of Kings perk is constantly active in these tests, which gives us an extra 15% more strength, overall changing the stats of our character in general. Now for the next test, I'm going to compare the damage of the Griffin with the Ender Dragon pet. I do have a level 100 right here with a Shelmet, which means that it's not going to alter the damage at all. As you can see, the stats here is plus 50 strength and then plus 50% crit damage, exactly the same as the Griffin pet, except it just doesn't give you as many other perks, as you can see right there. So go ahead, select this, and just test out the damage on the Crypticals, doing 168,000 damage, doing 168,000 damage there, 168,000 damage again, 168,000 damage on that critical, and then 168,000 damage a fourth time. So as expected, the Ender Dragon pet definitely out-damages the Griffin pet, and the Wither Skeleton pet being the most expensive one of the three. The main reason for this is because just like the Griffin pet, it does have a percent stat boost perk that it does have all the time. However, the Dragon pet will boost all of your stats by 10%, which means that it not only boosts your strength, but it also boosts crit damage, your crit chance, everything else, which just overall leads to you doing more damage than the Griffin and the Wither Skeleton pet. But now that we've showcased the damage of these pets on Crypticals, I'll go ahead and show them on Endermen, just because a lot of people tend to farm Endermen as well. And then we'll talk about some other things that I want to mention later on in the video. So in the end here now, we're going to be testing the damage of the Griffin pet on just some normal Endermen. The damage is basically the same for all of the different health Endermen, ranging from the 4.5k to the 13k Zealots. There shouldn't be much difference there. So to get things started here, going with a front-facing hit on the Enderman, doing about 198,000 damage. 198,000 damage, once again 198,000 damage, then a 397,000 damage backstab. So dealing just under 200,000 damage with the Griffin pet, not too bad, very useful, it does do a significant amount. We'll switch over to the Wither Skeleton now to show you guys what the damage numbers look like with this pet. So moving on to this Enderman over here, doing about 159,000 damage, 159,000 damage again, 159,000 damage there, and then once again about 158,000 damage. So just like the Crypticals, the damage of the Wither Skeleton pet is most definitely less. Once again, I did explain why this is, so it is expected that it will be doing a little bit less than the Griffin, but where the Ender Dragon shines is most definitely in the end here. I just want to see how much of a difference the Ender Dragon pet does have over the Griffin and the Wither Skeleton here. So moving on to this Enderman over here, we do around about 264,000 damage front facing, 264,000 damage again, 264,000 damage on that one, and then 264,000 damage on the Enderman. So as expected, the Ender Dragon does a significantly higher amount of damage than both of the pets. I mean, it does have an End Strike perk here, which does do 25% more damage to end mobs. That is what was expected, and it is also the more expensive pet. But now that we've got all the damage tests out of the way, showing you guys how these pets fare up against some common mobs that most people will farm, we'll move back over to the hub now, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on all three of these pets, and when I think the Griffin is worth buying, when I think a pet like the Wither Skeleton is worth buying, and just my overall thoughts on all these pets in general. So from the basic damage comparisons, you guys saw that the Wither Skeleton was definitely the worst one on one-shotting mobs, while the Ender Dragon triumphed over everything and pretty much just out-damaged every single pet we tested. Now this leaves the Griffin pet to be sort of the in-between option, and this is very interesting as the Griffin pet definitely has some insane first hit capabilities, but I do want to mention a couple of other things that I didn't show in this video, and that's the abilities of the Wither Skeleton pet, and why I feel like the Wither Skeleton pet is still an option that you should definitely consider, and why I wouldn't really hype up the Griffin pet too much, even though it definitely is a very solid option. So having a look at the perks of the Wither Skeleton pet, as you can see the last one is called Death's Touch, and upon hitting an enemy you inflict the Wither effect for 200% damage over 3 seconds. Now this is huge. It's mostly effective on things like mini bosses in dungeons, higher health mobs, slayer bosses like your Revs, your Broodfathers, and your Sven Packmasters. And it's also very useful on dragons, as you do so much more damage over time, and over a more extended period of time, you're going to be doing a lot more damage than the Griffin pet can. However, while the Wither Skeleton pet can definitely outdamage over a long period of time, it's also very important to keep in mind that the Griffin pet here does give you plus 10 magic find at level 100. And this is very useful because you're going to be farming things like Svens or Tarantulas, which normally have some very nice RNG drops, and I know a lot of people want to try and get their hands on them so they can sell them for some good money. Having the extra magic find is very useful, and a lot of people would prefer to sacrifice their damage to get a bit more magic find to get some slightly better perks than say the Wither Skeleton's extra damage, which in that case it's definitely a lot more valuable to you if that's what you want to be doing and you get your hands on a Griffin over a Wither Skeleton. However, the next very important point that I have to make in this video as well is that these level 100 Wither Skeleton pets are actually very cheap to get your hands on. As you can see at the time of recording this, a level 100 fully maxed out Wither Skeleton pet here, even with the Spooky Cupcake item, is only 9.4 million coins. Now for a level 100 pet, that is very good. Because the Wither Skeleton pet is a mining pet, this is the reason why it's so cheap to level up, and it's so easy to get maxed out ones. So the price difference between a lot of these pets is drastic, and I would definitely recommend you get your hands on a Wither Skeleton pet if you're more on a budget and you just need the extra damage and you're not super keen on the extra magic find. Just to give you guys some reference here on the other Griffins on the auction house, a fully maxed out level 100 Griffin pet here, also with the Crochet Tiger plushie, is currently going for 48.5 million coins. Now this is a little over 5 times more expensive than the Wither Skeleton pet, and this is expected as a combat pet is a lot harder to level up if you don't choose to candy it. So naturally, this is going to be a much more expensive pet, and it's really one that's only worth buying if you decide to buy it at level 1 or a lower level, and then you level it up yourself, either from doing the mythological ritual event or just from playing the game in general. Now, I'm not going to really say much on this Ender Dragon pet that I have in my inventory here. You guys already know that this is by far the most expensive pet in the game, and because it's the most expensive, it's obviously going to be doing the most damage. This in itself kind of has a magic find bonus, as it does boost all of your stats by 10%, and this does include magic find and pet luck. So in a way, it's relatively comparable to the Griffin pet. It's stronger, it has better stats, and it's overall just a better option. But it is something like 10 times more expensive. It might be even more than that, who knows. Priced at around 330 million for a level 1 legendary. So I wouldn't even consider getting the dragon pet unless you're very rich, you've got a lot of money, and you'd like to get yourself something very nice. And with all of that being said, hope you all did enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel because I make Hypixel Skyblock videos every Wednesdays and Fridays. And also if you've got any further questions, comments, or suggestions about this video, I do stream live over on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The links are down in the description below. But with all that being said, hope you all did enjoy this video, and as always, take care and peace. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same. I got a beheaded horror. What? Why is it when I switch from Superior to Shadow Assassin, it gives me a beheaded horror? What do you mean?